Hey guys, John Lee Dumas here, founder and host of EO Fire, and you're listening to Bravepreneur Parents Academy with Balaji O.
Welcome to Bravepreneur Parents Academy, where the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs reveal their most defining childhood moments and share their legacy for raising brave little heroes who will grow up to change the world. And now, he still reads comic books under the blanket at bedtime. Please welcome your host, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and self-confessed geek dad, Balaji O. You know, like the hotel in Vegas? Yeah, no, that's really his name. Balaji O.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bravepreneur Parents Academy. Today, we are talking to Brian Town, the CEO of Michigan Creative and the host of Business Machine Podcast. Now, at Michigan Creative, they build marketing machines that promote your business. But on his podcast, Business Machine, Brian tells stories about the mistakes entrepreneurs have made and how they recovered. So today, we're going to get some of that wisdom from Brian. So Brian, are you ready?
I am ready, man. That makes me sound so good. I love it. Thank you. That's perfect.
I love it. I love it. Brian, first and foremost, tell us, what is a business machine? You guys build business machines and marketing machines. That sounds like something out of the Matrix. What are you guys doing over there?
Yeah, it is out of the Matrix, man. I'm from that generation too, and that's a great question. And you know, it was one of those things where, you know, we went back and forth between who are we and what do we do, and we really started to talk about, like, you know, I hate that word full service, and it's like, you know what? I want to build machines because we felt that the website for business was so important, that it's where everything is. And then I think we sort of said, all right, well, what's part of that? Well, part of that is some video and some good contact forms and some great graphic design and then just easy to contact. And we thought, man, that's like a machine. I'm like, that's it. We want to build your business machine. And I think that ties into also that the whole idea is that we're all trying to get to as entrepreneurs is we want to have this machine that runs itself. Like if we can do that, and pieces of this machine to me are, you know, our cameras and our computers and our programs, but also our staff too. I mean, if we can get our staff to do a lot of the stuff for us and get this thing to run like a fine, well-oiled machine, I think we're all doing pretty good, or at least working towards that. I think we're doing pretty good.
I'd like to have a nanny as part of my business.
That would be a huge cog. That would be a huge cog. I've got 4 children, and so, man, that would be a big piece of that.
Oh, man, look at that. I love that. We're going to dig into that in just 1 minute. All right, Brian, so let's talk about your podcast. You focus on the mistakes that businesses make. Why the focus on mistakes?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's a couple of reasons. I think first and foremost, when I was talking to people, you know, I'm like 20 years down the road when Michigan Creative is done, and we've been super successful. I'm not going to write a book about all the things we did right, and here we are, and this is great things we did, because I hate that. And I hate going to see those kind of speakers. And I was like, I'm going to write a book about all the mistakes that we made and talk about those. And people are like, man, I'd read that book. And I started to think about it. I'm like, well, boy, if I have a book that's filled up with mistakes that I made, then we probably aren't doing pretty good. So I'm like, where am I going to get all this? Where am I going to get all this content? And I thought, man, let's start a podcast. And a lot of it was coming from, you know, John and Entrepreneur on Fire, because I loved when he interviewed entrepreneurs, and I thought there were so many valuable lessons in there. And some of the things that really made me feel good, because it's hard, man, being an entrepreneur, is when people would be on his show and on the Art of Charm show, and they would talk about how hard it was in the beginning and all the things that they screwed up along the way. I thought, man, I'm going to do that. I want to know that, because then I could fill up a book from, you know, chapters about, hey, this is one thing that doesn't work when you start, and this is another one, and this is another one. I think, man, that would be really cool. So hence the podcast. It talks, you know, it doesn't focus the whole time as like, hey, why are you so bad? You know,
you're terrible.
Yeah, but it focuses on, in the middle part, 2 or 3 questions about, tell me some things that didn't work and what was your biggest mistake. And the rest of it is talking about how we're trying to get the business to run like a machine.
I love that. And that focus on mistakes, particularly the way that you do it, couched in between some of the things that are working, that really provides valuable feedback. So for those who might not be familiar, Brian is referring to John Lee Dumas when he says John. John Lee Dumas is a mentor of both Brian and myself, and he hosts Entrepreneur on Fire, an amazing podcast if you happen to be one of the few entrepreneurs that isn't tuned in to Entrepreneur on Fire yet. Okay, so Brian, you did mention that you have 4 beautiful kids.
Yes.
How old are they?
Yeah, okay, so now when I tell this story, most people just laugh, and that's fine. If you can see my goatee, it's got gray on it, and we could talk about that later too. But so I have 4 children. I'm 2 marriages. So with my second wife, I have a new daughter who's 15 months old. She's 16 months old. Her name is Cora.
Get it right, Brian. Get it right.
I should have wrote this answer down, man. So Miss Cora is just gorgeous and lovely, and it's just, I'm 42, and so having another one while starting a business has been challenging and fun at the same time. I also have 2 boys in the middle, Jack, who's 11, and Nathan, who is 14, freshman in high school, both football players and basketball players.
Nice.
And then I also have a daughter who is 22. Actually, she's 22 now, almost done with nursing school at Grand Valley here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So lovely kids, man. They are something else. I tell you, I'm so happy to have the children I do. They're just amazing. I'm sure everyone says that, but.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And that is a wide range from 22 to 15 months. Yeah. So you're going through the cycle all over again.
Oh, yeah, why not?
But Brian, you weren't an entrepreneur, were you, when you first became a father? No. I think you worked was it a high school?
Yep. I taught the majority of my career has been as an educator. I've been an educator for about 16 years. I taught at one district for 2 years, and then I taught for another district for the 13 and a half years here in town. And I taught all my career, I taught video and television production.
How about that?
So I made the jump from 4 years ago from getting paid every day and working and benefits and retirement, and said, you know what, I'm just going to quit and start my own company.
I love that. I love that. So, Brian, you're one of the few who's seen both sides. Most of us parents, whether we work in a corporation or are entrepreneurs, we drop our kids off at school in the morning and we turn them over to folks like yourself. Right. So you've seen our kids during the day. What are some things that maybe, looking back, stand out to you in terms of what drives these kids, what motivates these kids, what separates kids that end up on the successful path versus the ones who maybe get lost in those formative years?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I'm super passionate about, and I think I could talk for hours about this, and it really gets me excited. I'm getting chills right now just from that question. But I taught an interesting program because I taught a very popular. I was hired to run and start the TV program back in 1997 at a high school, and at the time, video wasn't as hot as it is now, but really what we started to see is I taught 4 classes. I've taught over 4,000 students video and film, and
wow.
I think giving the kids some sort of ownership and allowing them and teaching them how to be leaders and allowing them to be free to do things, to do great things. I think when you can do that with these kids and say, no, you could do this. You can go out and make a career out of this video field. Or if not, if you want to go be a scientist or whatever, you're still going to be able to use these multimedia tools in any business that you go into. And so I think when you really excite these kids and you inspire them, I think, man, they're great. I tell you, we had some amazing kids at this school district. I can't even tell you how many students that basically who were 15, 16, 17 years old that were running the TV station for me. And
seriously? Oh,
man, super organized and hardworking and friendly and responsible. And, of course, that's not every kid, but for the most part, I had some amazing students. And, my class, of course, everybody wants to be in that class because it's a TV class and it's fun. It's not math or science. Nothing wrong with those fields either. But one of the things I think our superintendent and I talked about a lot, and I still talk to people about now, is we really need to start getting kids interested in something early. Like, I don't care what it is. It can be this, and I'm really passionate about the skilled trades. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, and I think getting kids involved in something early so that 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, they're starting to think about what they can do and what's available for them so that when they go to college, if that's the path that they choose, and I think that's an issue too. I think especially in the suburban districts around here, the idea is that you go to college. That's it. And I don't think that's a good mindset. Because I think there's so many other opportunities out there too. But getting kids interested in something before they leave high school, that is key, because when they go to a trade school, when they go to community college, when they go to a college, they're taking classes and they're getting involved in the departments of things that they love. That allows them to graduate on time, allows them to get connected with internships, and by the time they get out, they're doing good. Because what we saw was kids would go to college and go, I really don't know what I want to do.
Right.
They would change majors, they would drop out, they would party too much, and then they would be back home. And it's a staggering percentage.
Wow. That seems like such a little thing. Make sure you get them interested and invested in something early.
What's their passion? Finding out what their passion is at an early age. And that's why, I wish I could go back, and I still may, and not only teach video here and there, but also teach entrepreneurship, because it's starting to be taught at some of the schools. But to me, what I would do now, looking back just 4 years later, I would have turned that TV studio into a small business and had 30 kids working for me for free. And having that money fund the TV station and start doing productions for small businesses, because, boy, you could crush the competition because you could do it for really cheap.
Right.
But I hope no one hears this and does that and then runs me out of
edit this out. I'm going to edit that part out. Brian and I are going to partner and take over the whole Michigan landscape.
High school for hire, yeah.
I love that. Ooh, is that domain taken?
Oh, I know.
That's a good one. But let's kind of pivot a little bit back to the kids, Brian, because I want to kind of key in on the fact that you have a daughter who's 22. You have a daughter who is 15 months, a couple of boys in the middle. You've seen a lot of things. I'd like to maybe talk about
That's a good way to put it.
some of the challenges. Let's talk about how you earn those gray hairs, Brian. What are maybe some challenges coming up as a young parent, and even now, what are some of the maybe mistakes that you made? And looking back, you think, okay, if I had these gray hairs then, I would have been wiser and done things a little differently. Can you maybe share an example with us?
Yeah, and I always wonder too, and people ask that question a lot, and I don't know if I've done anything differently looking back, because I think even having Cora, years later, where we've done this, I've done this, raised children 3 times before her, and we're still kind of doing the same things that had worked in the past, and it's every child has a different challenge. But one of the things that I think is always difficult for me, and I'm bad about this anyway, is that we have a 2-parent household, but we also have 2 separate families. So they've got their lives with their mom and her husband, they've got their lives with me and my wife, and it's a challenge. I think as far as divorced families go, it works out as best that it can. And I think one of the things that I did at first during the early days of the divorce, especially when she remarried, is I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want another man to be with my boys. I was like, and it was driving me crazy inside. It was eating me up inside, and it still does a little bit now. But the minute I said to myself, hey man, if my boys have 2 positive male role models in their lives and 2 positive female role models that they get to spend 100% of their time with, that's pretty good. I mean, you can't ask for that. Like, imagine if he was just a jerk, And so,
different story.
Yeah, here I was just beating myself up about it, like, oh man, this is terrible. I wish you wouldn't take him to their soccer games, and now he's helping out, and it's just like, it was driving me crazy. Oh, it was eating me alive, man. And if that minute that I said that in my head, going, hey man, this is good for everyone. This is great for everyone. Our relationship with my ex-wife and her husband, immediately, I mean, it wasn't that bad, but immediately it was all in my head. Immediately that was awesome. We get along really good. We go out to dinner together with the kids, and oh my gosh, I could tell anybody out there that's listening to who's an entrepreneur, has kids, let that go. And immediately you'll just be like,
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that was it, and I think all of our all parents too. I thought I would get better at this. But I always have this guilt. I think all of us as parents have this guilt that, we're not spending enough time, or, oh man, we're not doing enough. What if, or I said this way and now that's going to ruin them for the rest of their life. It's just like, I don't know what it is, man. You'd think it'd get better because
second guessing.
Yeah, my daughter who's 22, man, I had those worries when she was all too grown up. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Good head on her shoulders. And so I think, the thing that I tell friends that have kids, I always tell them, do your best, be there for them when you can. And all we did was spend time and love them the best that we could. And that's the only advice that I really have, and so far it's worked.
That is profound. I love that. Brian, we want to get some understanding now because you seem like a really good parent as well as business person. We want to know how Superman was raised. We want to put you through the lightning round. Are you ready to go through the lightning round?
Oh, man, I'm ready. I've been waiting.
Okay. This is going to be tough now. We're going to be digging into some memories.
I know. It's going to be painful. I've got some tissue.
All right. Let's go as fast as we can. Number 1, favorite superhero, Brian?
Got to be Batman. I just like him because he's a man. He's a normal man. Doesn't have superpowers, but he kind of put his business sense together and made it. I love him.
Somehow you spun Batman into business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Favorite cartoon show?
When I was a kid, it was Popeye. He was Popeye the Sailor Man. I loved when he ate the spinach and was like, I'm ready to go.
That's dope.
Yep.
Video game. Favorite video game?
I don't know if you guys are going to know this or not. If you're about my age, you might. But there was after Atari, not after, just, Atari was popular. There was a system called ColecoVision. And it was amazing because it was the cool one. And there was a game on there called Buck Rogers. I played that thing.
Oh my god!
So much. I wish I'm going to get a ColecoVision from Amazon one of these days.
Classic. Your kids will make fun of you with that.
No, they'll play it. That's all right.
What about a favorite family tradition, Brian, growing up?
I would say it'd have to be deer hunting with my dad. Yeah, man. I mean, in Michigan, November 15th is opening day for deer season, and that's just something that I'll always remember heading out, being tired, not really wanting to go when I was, 12 years old at, 5:30 in the morning. But I remember those times with my dad, and it was always the same day, and we always would that would be our thing that we would do. So, deer hunting. Did I lose you?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm right here. I sometimes wonder, I love that answer, Brian. I've never been a hunter myself, but I love the fact that this is something that you and your dad did. And I sometimes wonder, Brian, which of the activities I do with my sons right now are going to stick with them when they grow up.
Yeah, I think about that a lot too. And, my dad I have all these things from my dad that I learned, and we'll talk about that too. And I always, if I can have a couple of those pieces in there that my sons say years from now, they're like, hey, yeah, my dad taught me this, and that I'd be good. I'd like it to be 1,000 things, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Very cool stuff. So, Brian, let's talk a little bit, staying with your childhood. Is there maybe one moment, perhaps in the preteen years or the adolescent years, maybe one embarrassing moment you wish never happened?
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Come on now, Brian.
Yeah.
Give it to us. Give us a good one.
Yeah, all right. Well, this is really embarrassing, but man, if I could show you, I would like to show you my 7th grade picture because I think I look older in my 7th grade picture than I do right now.
Come on.
I'm serious, man. Like if you could see it, like I had a mustache and I had some long kind of greasy hair, and I would just matured really quickly, man. And I was about the same size that I am right now, man. And you look at this picture and I got this 1970s stash, man. It wasn't huge, but it was definitely there, man.
It was there.
It was there. And I just, I can remember that time in my life, that 6th, 7th grade, that was just awkward. And I felt like I didn't have a place, and it was just, then the 8th grade hit, and I remember that to be on the football team, the coach was pretty traditional. You had to shave and be clean cut. My dad said, hey, man, you got to do this because it's, you got to play football. And after that, it was, things kind of changed for me. But I really struggled in 7th grade, just because I felt real out of place and just dorky, you know.
The 7th grade stash.
Oh, man, oh, sweet. I will send it to you, but you cannot use it on my show notes.
Oh, boy, that is a good one. I love that. And, Brian, did you some people struggled, aside from feeling dorky or awkward in their bodies, which I think most of us did, some people had struggles perhaps with bullying or peer pressure or other things. Did you have any challenges in your childhood or teenage years that you kind of had to wrestle with?
Yeah, I think part of the problem that we all had growing up, too, was, when the older, when we got to high school, there was there was always the older crowd, too, and we really had to make some decisions on which path that we wanted to go down. And some of my friends, you could kind of see that dividing line, and some of my friends went down the drug and alcohol, sort of way, and I don't think they ever got out of it. And I know back then it was hard, and I know from being an educator now that it's really hard at the high school level. I mean, that is, we've had issues at a suburban district here in town that I used to work at, where some pretty heavy drugs and some issues of kids, and you just wouldn't think it, because I know their parents and they're awesome. And so, yeah, I think that was always an issue. I think for me, I know I went down that path maybe a little bit, and thank God I didn't end up, staying there, which was good. But yeah, that was a challenge.
So, Brian, with you having a 22-year-old, she's made it through that difficult phase that parents are concerned about, and now you have your 2 boys sort of entering that phase. What can parents do to kind of shield their children or prepare them for the inevitable negative peer pressure?
And this is going to be cliche, but the more that you can just talk to them and be honest and open with them. And I think the conversations that I've had with my son, who's now as a freshman, and I just said, look, man, I've seen it. I've done it. I've been there. This is what's going to happen. I told him, here's the scenarios that I can think of that could happen. Your kids are going to offer you this, and they're going to do this and this and this. And I just want to let you know that it's there, and you need to make that decision. And I said, here's some negative consequences that can happen from it. I didn't say it like that, because I'm not that, I was just like, hey, man, this is what, and I probably said, this is what will happen, and really just honest and frank with them, and just say, man, I want, you to know that at any time, no matter what, that I'm here. You can ask, you can say, I can pick you up. There's never going to be a judgment, and just really letting them know as much as you can that they can come to you. Because if they know that, I think you're just going to be a lot safer. I think if you really lock them down and you really, start to say, if you do this, this is going to be the end of the road. Right. Here's all these, I just don't think that's a good way. And I've always been open with all the children, and so far they've made very good decisions. Obviously, Cora, it's only 16 months. I haven't checked her bottles for anything yet, but we'll see.
You're grounded, Cora.
Yeah, we never really had to do that. I don't want to say we didn't discipline our children, because that sounds like we're just kind of like, do whatever you want. But, honestly, man, there's been very few times where we've really had to put these consequences and ground them and things like that. So far, I mean, it's just sort of been like, hey, that wasn't your best move, man. Let's not do that again. And that seems to work. I mean, I'm lucky. I guess I'm lucky. I don't know.
Well, where did that come from, Brian? Where did that approach come from? Is this something that you're modeling from your parents? What kind of parenting style did they have?
Yeah, I think it is, because I just remember how important my dad was to me. My mom was too. She wasn't involved as much, but my dad was an Army colonel. He retired. I lived, we moved all over the place with him until about 4th grade. And then when he retired, I was just starting 4th grade. And then we started a small farm, and he was retired. And so he was there with me all the time.
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
Man. He was like, I don't think any of my friends had a father that was involved as mine, because he was retired. And we ran the farm together. He would coach my teams, and he was always around. And I think that really made me the father that I am, is just, knowing that how important that is, but also wanting to do it. And so I think a lot of my parenting, if not all of it, came from him.
That's amazing. That is amazing. That really, you could tell from not only how passionate you are about the kids at the school, but how you work with your children as well, kind of giving them a lot of responsibility, keeping the lines of communication open. I got to tell you, Brian, one thing that concerns a lot of parents about the 100% open communication style is that some parents are concerned that if they kind of lay it all out for their kids may feel they've been given permission to go try those things.
Yeah, and I don't think that's quite the direction you would want to do. I really wanted him to know, and I have concrete examples, and and I'm sure we all do. I mean, it's unfortunately, it's kind of like cancer. We all know somebody who's had cancer, been affected by cancer. We all know somebody that has a child that's been affected by drugs or alcohol, or having sex too early and having a baby or something like that. So we all know somebody. And so I was able to give my kids, look, I got this friend, I got this student, he smokes a lot of pot, and a lot of people are telling you that pot's not bad. And I'm like, but man, he doesn't do anything, man. I mean, he doesn't do anything. So, some people are going to tell you pot's not hard. And I'm like, but this is what could happen. And so, I mean, I really like those examples. And just be like, here's what could happen if this goes down this road. And the drinking and driving thing is easy, but there's just so much opportunity for these kids to get their hands on things, and it's no different. People are always like, well, it's so different today because there's season. It's no different. I mean, we could get it was always available and always is, and so. Yeah, and you can't protect them from everything, man. I mean, you just can't. I mean, he's at the high school right now. It's a safe school district, but I tell you, being a teacher at the same district for that long, and I tell you, I know. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah, you know. And so, Brian, you talked about the impact of your father's presence on your life being so magnanimous and positive. Today, especially those of us who are entrepreneurs, we are crazy busy. How have you balanced being a dad and an entrepreneur at the same time? How do you excel at both?
Well, I'm not sure if I am, but let me. I think I am, but yeah, man, good question. And we talk about this on our show too. And I kicked myself a lot, and I still do, and I'm getting better at that. I mean, we're our own worst enemies. I mean, if it wasn't for my brain, I would be very happy. But when I was a teacher, I had some time off in the summer. I didn't have the whole summer off because I was also a video coordinator, and I was, able to have a lot more freedom. And so now it's like, gosh, I have to I'm working harder than I ever have. And so I have to, and this is silly. What I've been doing is I've been putting on my calendar things that I have to do for the family. And so, for example, I have to make sure that I pick up my son today from school because he gets out of practice early. So I put that on the calendar. It's on my business calendar. My staff knows it. My clients know it. They can't book me. And so I'm trying to be diligent about that. And one of the things that I'm very good about now, and wasn't when I first started the company, is I don't take my phone in places or to games, or I leave it in the car when we go to dinner or the movie theater. I don't take it to the football games because some of the games you could go to and they're not very exciting, so you could be working it, but then you're not in the moment. And so to me, my work, I'm going to change this on my podcast because I asked a question about work-life balance, and I hate that because it's stupid. I hate work-life balance. Don't ever say it, so I got to figure out how to change that. But because if you love your work, it's part of you, and you can do it all the time. And that being said, is that it's no problem for you to not work. And so when I find myself looking at my phone and seeing a notification or an email from a client that I think I have to deal with, I think I have to deal with it. So I try to avoid that, and I just try not to have my phone with me on the couch when my kids are there. I don't put it by my bed anymore, and I don't take it to the games.
That is interesting. I got to tell you, Brian, I'm listening to a book by a guy called Nir Eyal, Nireyal, and the book is called Hooked. Nir talks about how the video game industry and the advertising industry have been studying the human brain for decades.
Sure.
And they've been building in qualities into their products or into their commercials that hook us, that make us addicted. So when you talk about leaving your phone behind, I think that smartphone is possibly the most addictive thing we have in our
100%.
lives. As a matter of fact, I tell you, my 8-year-old was asking me yesterday, he said, what do those little red numbers mean on the icons on your phone? He didn't use the word icons. He said something else. But I told him, that tells me there's a new message in there. And he was like, you have 23,000 new messages on your email? I said, we're not going to talk about that right now.
Don't look at that again. I'm going to turn that off.
Right. But the thing is, every time Facebook tells me, and when I see that new red number on the Facebook icon, I've got to click it. I've got to see who in the world wants my attention. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast. I think it was The Art of Charm again, and maybe it was on one of John's too, but turn your notifications off. That's one of the things that, to me, turn off Facebook notifications, turn off Twitter notifications, because we have this in our mind that we have to deal with it. And it is, man. It's just the way that our brains are wired. And so I've turned all those off. And because, a Twitter notification is not that important. It really isn't. But you're like, oh, what if this is that $1 million client?
That's Brian.
It's terrible. I'm turning them off, man. I'm going to even do more. Like this week I've fallen off the wagon, and I've had my phone with me when I shouldn't, and I need to get back on it. So.
Yeah. After listening to that book, Hooked, and I highly recommend you guys read it. I'll put it in the show notes. But the author himself was talking about how, although he's worked in the industry, the software industry, and he's helped companies like Facebook and Google and Microsoft make their products more quote-unquote addictive.
Great. So he's the devil's advocate. I see what's happening.
But he's as addicted as we are. So he said that he recently uninstalled Twitter from his phone.
What?
He said that was the only way he could unhook himself. So it doesn't mean he's off Twitter. He only uses Twitter on his desktop.
I like it. I like that.
And that doesn't sound that unreasonable.
Some people are having a panic attack right now.
You don't need to be checking Facebook at the stoplight.
As I check my Twitter while we're talking.
I know. Right. Hashtag. Yes. So this is really interesting, though. I love the leaving the phone behind. Yep. That's one I'm going to adopt as well. Guys, Brian is giving us the business right now. You're listening to Brian Town of Michigan, creative and the host of Business Machine Podcast. Right now, Brian is inventing all kinds of family love machines, okay?
Right.
Schedule your family to-dos. Don't take the phone with you to games and dinner and movies. Turn off social media notifications. Really big stuff. Brian, we're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but before we do, I like asking this question, the breakthrough question. We've talked about some mistakes. We've talked about struggles. We've even learned about the 7th grade stash.
Yeah, that was terrible. I'll show you a picture. I'll find it. It's terrible.
Well, let's talk about a breakthrough. Have you and your wife maybe had, over your years of parenting, maybe one surprising breakthrough that you can share with us?
Yeah, and it was really recently, and this is awesome because and it's really not a parenting tip, but what it is the little things that you do matter. And you don't think they do, and you always think that you're not doing very much. But I got a glimpse at one of my son's reports that he had to write, my freshman, and he's the one I'm always concerned about because as a freshman boy, he doesn't want anything to do with it. He just wants to, has his phone. Although he's pretty good, man. I still get hugs and stuff, so I'm pretty pleased about that. But he had to write a report about things that were important to him and things that influenced him, and there was a section in there on things that I had taught him that I had forgot about. So we changed the oil on one of the cars one time. I showed him how to start the chainsaw. I took him hunting one time, and he wrote about how those things were really important to him, and they were small things, and so do the best that you can, and always remember that you don't. I think a lot of it was that I always thought that when the kids came over, when the boys came over from their moms and it was their week with us, that we had to do like a party, and we had to have like, we're going to go this weekend, we're going to get a hotel, we're going to go to a splash park, we're going to do this. And really, they just want to sit on the couch with you, man. And they just want to go hang out and remember that the things that you do as a family, you go on spring break, you do this, those are great. I think those are awesome, but those aren't going to be the things that stick with them forever. It's going to be those little things like, one time he showed me how to change the oil, or now because of my dad, I can use a chainsaw, and that's things that my dad taught me. Like without him, I wouldn't be able to do a whole lot of stuff, outside like that. So don't forget the little things, how important those little pieces are. That's the breakthrough. That's the breakthrough.
I love that. All right, folks, you heard it from Brian. Teach your kids to juggle chainsaws.
Yes, that's it. That's it. If you can teach them how to chew, not cut their leg off. Yeah.
Brian, one more question, and this is a bit of a doozy. So we're going to time travel right now. And this should be especially interesting because you have a 22-year-old and a 15-month-old. But let's say we are 30 years in the future. Cora, Brian is old. He's still got the stash, though.
Oh, yeah.
And Miss Cora, let's just say, for discussion's sake, is married, maybe even has her own little mini Cora running around. Yep. What would you like to say to all four of your kids, and especially to Cora, the baby, about this point in time, 2015, Bryantown, hustling, growing business machines, running Michigan Creative, doing the best that he can with the extended family? What would you like to say about the decisions you made right now and the experiences you had in 2015?
Yeah, that's a big one, man. I like it, though. It's a big one. I really hope that they look back and I hope that there are just two things, that along the way they did their very best to make other people better and to make their lives as happy as they could be. And I hope that they look back and because of some small things that I taught them, that they're happy. Because I think that's all we care about as parents. I don't even care about success necessarily or money or anything like that. I would just hope that they learned from me how to be satisfied and happy with who they are as people. And if I've done that a little bit, and they can look back and say, you know what, my dad just taught me how to be happy and to enjoy life and to to be good to other people and try to make a difference in the world, I would be super, super happy.
You heard it here, folks. Mr. Bryantown, Michigan Creative, and the host of Business Machine Podcast. You're going to have to start another podcast, Family Love Machine.
I like
podcast, because you created just a few real hacks that are very simple to do, but could make a big difference. Brian, thank you.
Thank you, sir. This was a pleasure, and I was nervous. I'm not sweating a whole lot, no tears, but I tell you, man, these are good questions. And one of the things I loved about it too, I think, is that. And like a lot of things that I've done these podcasts is that your podcast made me feel better today. It made me feel, because you don't get to talk about yourself very often, about some of the good things. You don't. I very rarely get to talk, hey, I've done a good job here. But so it made me feel better today, and I'm going to have a great day with my kids because of this podcast. So thank you, sir.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. This has been a very good one. I'm going to rewind this one and listen a couple more times. Go hug your kids today, guys. And on behalf of Bryantown, this is Bravepreneur Parents Academy. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, up, and away!
Thanks for supporting my dad's show. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to iTunes. He said hot chocolate is for closers. If you don't subscribe, I don't get hot chocolate. I love hot chocolate.
Fear not. Although this chapter of Bravepreneur Parents Academy has come to its conclusion, we have many more adventures for you and your brave little heroes. Head over to bravequest.me for access to the Brave Quest Journal, an interactive activity playbook that rewards your little ones with points for accomplishing tasks that build character and unleash your child's inner superhero all before bedtime. We look forward to having you join us for more adventures next time on Bravepreneur Parents Academy.